On the hottest day of the year, a poor water hawker stood in traffic with just one bottle left, the money for her dinner. When a stranger in a car asked for water, she gave it to him for free, not knowing he was a billionaire. People laughed. They called her foolish. What they didn't know was that this single bottle would change her life forever. If you believe kindness still matters, subscribe to this channel, like this video, and comment below. What would you have done if that bottle was your last? Now, let's begin. Bella woke up before dawn, long before the first call to prayer floated through the air. The room was still dark, thick with silence, and the only sound was her mother's weak breathing beside her. Bella opened her eyes slowly, her body already tired as if she had not slept at all. She lay still for a moment, staring at the cracked ceiling, listening to her mother cough softly. "Mama," Bella whispered, careful not to scare her. "Are you awake?" Her mother shifted and groaned. "I am awake, my child," she said faintly. "Go back to sleep. It is still early." Bella sat up immediately. "I cannot sleep again," she replied gently. "Let me help you first." She stood up, washed her face with a small bowl of water, and tied her wrapper firmly around her waist. The floor was cold under her feet as she moved closer to her mother. Her mother's face looked thinner than yesterday, her lips dry, her eyes tired. "Mama, you did not eat well last night," Bella said. Her mother forced a weak smile. "You are the one that did not eat," she replied. "You gave me your food." Bella shook her head quickly. "I was not hungry," she lied, kneeling beside her. She helped her mother sit up slowly, supporting her back. "Let me warm the water so you can bathe a little. You will feel better." As Bella moved around the room, she spoke softly, like someone afraid that loud words might break the morning. She lit a small stove, warmed water, and cleaned her mother carefully. When her mother coughed again, Bella rubbed her chest gently. "Today will be better," Bella said, more to herself than to her mother. "I will sell everything." Her mother looked at her with worry. "Do not stress yourself too much," she said. "If you feel tired, come back early." Bella nodded, though she already knew she would not come back early. She never did. After settling her mother back on the mat, Bella moved to the corner of the room where her crate was kept. She opened it and counted the bottles slowly, one by one. Bottled water, soft drinks, everything she had bought on credit from the distributor the previous night. She sighed quietly. "I must sell all of you today," she murmured. She remembered the man who sold the drinks to her. "Bella, don't fail me," he had warned. "Bring my money by evening." "I will," she had promised, even though she was not sure how. Bella arranged the bottles neatly, wiping each one with a small cloth so they would look clean and attractive. She placed them carefully into the crate and lifted it onto her head, adjusting the cloth pad beneath it. Her neck already ached, but she said nothing. Before leaving, she turned back to her mother. "Mama, I am going now." Her mother reached out and held her hand. "God will go with you," she said. "May today bring good news." Bella smiled. "Amen," she replied. "I will sell everything. I will buy food. And I will save small money for Ibrahim and Fatima's school fees." Her mother's eyes filled with tears. "You carry too much on your head," she said softly. Bella smiled again, though her eyes were already wet. "One day, Mama," she said, "I will carry less." She stepped outside as the sky slowly began to change color. The air was cool, but she knew it would not last. As she walked toward the main road, the crate balanced on her head. Bella whispered her plan again and again like a prayer. Sell everything, buy food, save small money for her siblings' school fees. Sell everything, buy food, save small money. And with that hope beating in her chest, she disappeared into the early morning streets. The sun had climbed higher by the time Bella reached the busy junction. The road was alive now. Cars honked without patience. Buses shouted destinations. Hawkers moved up and down like restless ants, lifting their wares and calling out with tired voices. Bella took her usual spot near the traffic light, balanced her crate on her head, and began to sell. Cold water, soft drinks, very cold water, she called softly. Her voice was gentle, almost shy. It did not cut through the noise the way others did. One hawker nearby noticed and laughed. Bella, the woman said loudly, you sell too slowly. Another joined in, shaking her head. If you continue like this, night will meet you here. Customers don't hear you. Bella smiled politely. They will hear me, she said calmly. They always do. The woman scoffed. See how she is smiling again, she said to the others. You smile too much. This street is not your friend. Yes, another hawker added. People here respect shouting, not smiling. Bella said nothing. She only smiled again and shifted her crate slightly to ease the pain in her neck. Inside her chest, something pinched, but she pushed it down. She had learned not to answer too much. Words did not sell water. Peace helped her survive the day. A man walking hurriedly suddenly stopped in front of her. Excuse me, he said, breathing hard. Please, where is the general hospital? Bella's face lit up. Oh, you have passed it small, she said quickly. Go straight, turn left at the big mango tree, then ask again. The man looked relieved. Thank you. Thank you very much. You are welcome, Bella replied. One hawker rolled her eyes. See her, she muttered, always stopping to talk. Minutes later, a young couple approached, confused and arguing quietly. Please, the woman said, is this road going to the market? Yes, Bella answered immediately. But you must cross to the other side. This lane will take you away. They thanked her and walked on. Bella, a hawker shouted again, you are not a guide. You are here to sell. Bella smiled without turning. I can do both, she said softly. As traffic paused, an elderly woman stood at the edge of the road, shaking slightly. Cars rushed past her. She looked afraid, clutching her wrapper tightly. Bella noticed immediately. Without thinking, she lowered her crate and rushed toward her. Mama, let me help you, Bella said, holding the woman's arm gently. Oh, my daughter, the old woman replied, her voice trembling. My legs are weak. Do not worry, Bella said. We will go slowly. She waited for the cars to stop, raised her hand, and guided the woman step by step across the road. When they reached the other side, the old woman squeezed Bella's hand. God bless you, she said. You have a good heart. Bella smiled warmly. Go well, Mama. From across the road, laughter broke out. Bella has started again, someone said loudly, helping everybody except herself. Another voice added, kindness will finish her. Bella returned to her spot, lifted her crate again, and continued selling as if she had heard nothing. But the truth was clear. She was kind. She was soft-hearted, and people knew it. They knew she would help. They knew she would smile. They knew she could be taken advantage of. Still, Bella stood there, calling softly, smiling gently, giving when she could, because she did not know how to be any other way. Bella stepped to the edge of the road, away from the crowded chaos of the street, and carefully lowered her crate to the ground. She sat down on the dusty pavement and opened it slowly, one bottle at a time. The morning sun glinted off the plastic, making each bottle sparkle faintly, but for Bella, they were more than just water and soft drinks. She touched the first bottle and whispered, 1. Each bottle in the crate represented a small victory, a small hope. This one will buy yam for Mama, she thought. That one will feed Ibrahim for the day. Her fingers brushed the labels, tracing them as if they carried the weight of her family's survival. 2, she murmured, lifting the next bottle carefully. Each one counted. Each one mattered. She imagined the food it would bring, the rice, the beans, the small oil for their stew. The bottles were not just merchandise, they were lifelines. By the time she reached the last bottle, her hand trembled slightly. She held it tightly, feeling the cool condensation through the plastic. This one, she thought, this one is for dinner. She swallowed hard, thinking of her empty stomach, the longing eyes of her younger siblings, the tired mother waiting at home. The last bottle was more than water. It was the difference between hunger and hope for the evening. She looked at it carefully, weighing her options silently. Each bottle was a step toward survival, but this final bottle was everything she had left to give. The sun hung high in the sky like a cruel overseer, its heat heavy and suffocating, pressing down on the streets as if it had a life of its own. The air shimmered above the asphalt, waves of heat twisting and dancing, making the world look like it was melting. Each breath felt thick, each movement sluggish, as though the sun was daring anyone to survive the day. People staggered along the roads, wiping sweat from their foreheads. Some collapsed to the ground, fainting from the relentless heat. Their bodies gave in while their minds still clung to consciousness. A woman in a bright wrapper swayed, her basket tipping over, sending tomatoes rolling across the pavement. She groaned and struggled to rise, but the sun's weight seemed to push her down again. Tempers flared as quickly as the sun's rays. Drivers shouted at one another, fists hitting dashboards. Bus conductors barked orders at passengers who moved too slowly. Hawkers yelled louder, voices cracking, trying to cut through the heat and noise, their patience worn thin. Traffic crawled, then stopped entirely, locked in a stubborn knot of cars, buses, motorcycles, and people. Horns blared endlessly, mingling with shouting, groans, and the occasional cry from someone overcome by the sun. The heat didn't just touch the city, it ruled it, making everyone bend to its will, testing endurance, patience, and even kindness. Bella lifted her crate, feeling the heat on her neck, her back, her arms. She wiped sweat from her brow and kept moving forward. The sun was heavy, almost alive, but she would not stop. Today, she had bottles to sell, food to buy, and hope to carry through the burning streets. Suddenly, the distant hum of engines grew louder, sharper, more commanding. A line of sleek black SUVs appeared, moving faster than the crawling traffic, their tinted windows glinting in the harsh sunlight. Then, without warning, the lead SUV slammed on its brakes, tires screeching, and the others skidded to a sudden halt behind it. The convoy stopped so abruptly that some motorcycles wobbled, honking in panic. For a moment, the street froze. Dust rose from the asphalt, swirling in the air like smoke. People blinked, unsure what had just happened. A bus conductor leaned out of his window, shouting, "What is this? What is going on?" Then curiosity turned into chaos. Whispers spread instantly. "Politician! Politician!" someone shouted. Another voice cut in, louder this time. "No, it's a celebrity." Hawkers abandoned their stalls for a moment, pushing past each other to get a glimpse. Pedestrians hurried closer, phones raised, ready to film. Children ran ahead, pointing excitedly at the SUVs. Even the faint hum of the city seemed to pause, replaced by murmurs, gasps, and the shuffle of a crowd pressing toward the black vehicles. Bella's heart beat faster. She stayed back, adjusting her crate on her head, watching silently as the crowd surged. Everyone seemed drawn to the glossy cars, their tinted windows hiding whatever or whoever sat inside. Confusion, excitement, and curiosity rippled through the street like electricity. And in that moment, Bella didn't know that her day and her life was about to change forever. Inside the first black SUV, Sam sat slumped in the leather seat, looking nothing like the powerful man people assumed he was. His face was pale, almost grey under the harsh sunlight streaming through the tinted windows. Beads of sweat rolled slowly down his temples, leaving damp streaks across his forehead. His shirt clung uncomfortably to his back, and even the air conditioning seemed unable to cool the heat that clung to his body. He took a shallow breath, his chest rising and falling unevenly, as if each inhale required more effort than the last. His lips were dry, cracked, and he pressed a hand against his mouth, trying to keep himself steady. His aides hovered around him nervously, glancing at one another and whispering urgently, "Sir, you need water." "Sir, we should stop," one said, his voice trembling. Another reached for a bottle, but Sam waved them off weakly, his hand shaking. "No, it's fine," he said, his voice hoarse and barely audible. I can manage." The aides exchanged worried glances, fear etched into their faces. They had never seen him like this, not in meetings, not on stage, not even in the press. But Sam did not want to alarm them. He leaned back against the seat, closing his eyes briefly, trying to steady his racing heartbeat, and lifted a hand lazily to signal that they should stay calm. Even in that moment of vulnerability, he carried himself with the faintest trace of authority, barely enough to remind everyone that he was still the billionaire in charge, but it was clear. Sam was tired, weak, and desperately in need of water. The man took the bottle from Bella's hands with a slow, deliberate motion, his fingers brushing hers briefly. He lifted it to his lips, and each sip seemed measured, almost ceremonial, as if he was savoring more than just water. Bella watched, her chest tight, every heartbeat echoing in her ears. He drank slowly, deliberately, giving no sign of urgency or impatience. His eyes then lifted, locking on hers. He looked at her deeply, as if trying to see past her tattered clothes, past the hot, dusty street, past the laughter of the crowd. In that gaze, there was a quiet recognition, something unspoken that made her shoulders stiffen and her hands tremble. He said nothing, not a word, no acknowledgement of her courage, no comment on her kindness, just silence. The air between them was thick with unspoken meaning, the kind that could crush a person or lift them higher than they had ever dreamed. Bella waited, uncertain, her face flushed from the heat and the crowd's laughter, her heart pounding in her chest. She expected a smile, a thank you something, but he simply lowered the bottle, wiped his lips lightly with the back of his hand, and turned slightly toward the driver. The convoy began to move again, black SUVs gliding forward slowly through the stopped traffic. Bella stepped back instinctively, still holding the emptiness of the bottle in her hands. No thank you, no promise, just silence. Bella walked slowly back home, her steps heavy, the crate now empty and lighter, yet somehow heavier in her heart. Each footstep felt longer than the last, dragging across the dusty road. She had nothing to show for the day, no money clinking in her pocket, no coins for food, not even enough to buy the small things her siblings needed. When she reached the small, worn doorway of her home, her mother was sitting on the mat, fanning herself slowly with an old piece of cardboard. Her face lifted when she saw Bella, and for a brief moment, hope flickered. Then she noticed the empty crate. "Bella," her mother said softly, a gentle disappointment in her voice. "You came back, and you have nothing." Bella lowered her eyes, swallowing hard. I gave it away, Mama." Her mother sighed, not in anger, but with quiet sorrow. "I understand, my child," she said, her voice tender. "You always care for others before yourself." Bella nodded, but it did not lessen the hollow ache in her stomach. The small scraps they had saved for dinner were gone, and she knew the night would be long and hungry. She helped her mother settle into a chair, then sat down on the floor, hugging her knees close to her chest. The tears came slowly, silently, running down her cheeks without a sound. She did not sob aloud, she did not call for help. She cried quietly into the darkness of the small room, the shame of the day, the exhaustion in her body, and the gnawing hunger mixing into a bitter ache. Her mother watched her, understanding, her hand resting on Bella's back in silent comfort. The night pressed around them, heavy and still, but Bella's tears carried something she could not yet name, Perhaps regret. Perhaps longing. Perhaps the quiet seed of hope that one act of kindness, even when it cost her everything, might someday bloom into something greater. Bella had just set her crate down to catch her breath when a low rumble began in the distance. At first, it was faint, almost like thunder, but quickly it grew louder, sharper, until the ground seemed to tremble beneath her feet. She looked up and froze. A convoy of black SUVs was pouring into the street, one after another, like a river of shining metal cutting through the dusty road. Soldiers jumped out of some vehicles, boots hitting the asphalt with heavy thuds. Police officers appeared at the edges of the street, faces stern, eyes scanning the crowd. Men in sharp suits and sunglasses moved with precision, their eyes hidden but their presence commanding. The street, usually alive with chatter and hawking, fell into chaos. Neighbors ran to their doorways, some clutching their children, others peeking cautiously from windows and balconies. The hum of gossip and fear spread faster than the vehicles themselves. She stole something. Someone shouted from across the road. Another voice rang out. She offended a big man. That's why they are here. Whispers multiplied, passing from person to person. Maybe she took someone's money. Maybe she angered an important man. What do you think? Bella's heart raced. She backed away slightly, hands trembling, her crate heavy on her head as the street seemed to tighten around her. The crowd pressed closer, not to watch her, but to see what would happen next. The rumors swirled like a storm, heavier and louder than the dust in the air. For the first time, Bella felt real fear. Not the small, everyday fear of selling slowly or being laughed at, but a fear that something bigger, something far beyond her control, had come for her. Bella froze in the middle of the street, her crate trembling on her head as her knees shook beneath her. Her heart pounded so hard she thought it might burst, and sweat ran down her back, sticky and hot. Every instinct screamed at her that she was in trouble, real trouble, the kind that could change everything she knew about her life. Her eyes darted from the black SUVs to the soldiers, to the men in suits moving with purpose. Their faces were stern, unyielding, and she felt smaller with every step they took toward the crowd. The murmurs and whispers of the neighbors mixed with her own racing thoughts. Did I do something wrong? Did I offend someone? Her mother's hand shot out and grabbed hers tightly. Bella, my child, stay close to me, she said, her voice trembling almost as much as Bella's body. She clung to her daughter like a lifeline, wrapping her arms protectively around her. It's going to be okay, she whispered, though Bella could hear the fear hidden beneath her gentle words. Bella pressed herself closer to her mother, feeling the warmth and weight of her presence. Her own tears threatened to spill over, but she did not dare let them fall. The world around her seemed suddenly enormous, dangerous and alive with unknown power. She could only tremble, breathe shallowly, and hold tight to her mother's hand, praying that somehow they would survive whatever was coming. The black SUV stopped completely in the middle of the street, its engine rumbling softly as the world seemed to hold its breath. Then slowly the door opened, and he stepped out, calmly, confidently. Every eye on the street turned toward him, and for a moment, even the heat seemed to pause. The soldiers, the police, the men in suits, and even the neighbors instinctively bowed their heads, a silent wave of respect and fear washing over the crowd. People pressed back, some dropping to their knees, others covering their mouths in shock. The street, usually alive with noise, became hushed. He scanned the crowd with a steady, measured gaze, then spoke clearly, his voice cutting through the murmurs like a blade. "Where is the girl who gave me water?" Murmurs spread instantly, and all eyes searched for her. Bella's heart pounded in her chest as hands clutched her mother's. Before she could step back, a soldier gently guided her forward. She walked slowly, her crate long gone, her head held low, unsure what to expect. He looked at her as she approached, and then, In a voice loud enough for everyone to hear, he began to tell the story himself. Yesterday, I was exhausted, weak, and thirsty. Many passed me by. Many laughed, but one single person offered me water without expecting anything in return. The crowd went completely silent. Even the hawkers who had mocked her, the neighbors who had whispered doubts, the people who had avoided her, all of them stopped talking. Their eyes widened as they listened, the story cutting through their disbelief. He paused, looking at Bella, and then said slowly, each word deliberate, "I have money. I have power. But that day I had no water, and only one person saw me as human." The weight of his words hung in the air, heavier than the heat, deeper than the street itself. Bella's eyes met his, and for the first time, she felt the quiet recognition of her courage and kindness, reflected back at her from someone who had the world at his feet. The man turned fully toward Bella, his gaze steady, his presence commanding every inch of the street. Then he raised his hand slightly, and his voice rang out, calm yet powerful, cutting through the tension like a bell. "From this day forward," he announced, "her siblings will have a full education. No more worries about fees, no more fear of missing school. Every book, every uniform, every exam fee will be covered." The crowd gasped. Bella's younger brother and sister, who had been clinging to their mother, stared wide-eyed as if the impossible had suddenly become real. "Her mother," he continued, "will have a new home. A safe place, built with care, where she can live with dignity and peace." Bella's mother pressed her hand to her chest, tears welling in her eyes, while neighbors whispered among themselves, awestruck. "Medical care," he added, "for anyone in her family who needs it. No one should suffer because they are poor." The words alone felt like sunlight breaking through dark clouds. But then he turned to Bella herself, his voice softening, almost intimate. "And for her, I offer more than gifts. I offer dignity. I offer a chance to stand tall. She will be the face of my water brand, trained to lead, guided to speak, and given a voice that matters." He paused, letting it sink in. "She will not just survive. She will inspire. She will teach others that kindness is never wasted." Bella stood frozen, disbelief and awe battling in her chest. The crowd looked at her with new eyes, their mockery gone, replaced by stunned respect. And for the first time in her life, Bella felt truly. Weeks later, Bella stepped out of her new home, dressed in clean clothes that fit her properly, soft fabrics that no longer scratched her skin or clung to her in the heat. Her hair was combed neatly, her face washed, and there was a quiet glow to her presence, a confidence that had been forged through struggle and recognition. He carried herself differently now, shoulders back, head high, a calm strength in her movements. As she walked, she spoke clearly and confidently to the people around her. Drivers, neighbors, assistants, her voice steady, firm yet kind. She no longer whispered or hesitated. Each word carried weight, and people listened. She gave instructions, offered advice, and smiled gently at those who approached. And for the first time, she felt that her words had value beyond her own survival. Eventually, Bella turned toward her old street. The narrow, dusty road that had once been her world stretched out before her, full of hawkers and neighbors who still remembered the girl who had given away her last bottle. She paused for a moment at the edge, taking it all in: the stalls, the heat, the hum of daily life, and then stepped forward, crate in hand, not to sell, but to walk among them with purpose. Her steps were calm but deliberate. She greeted familiar faces, nodded to those who had once mocked her, and smiled at the hawkers who now watched her in quiet awe. The street was the same, but she was different. She carried herself with a dignity and confidence that could not be ignored, a living proof that kindness, even when unnoticed, could change everything. Bella stopped in the middle of the street, the sun casting long shadows across the dusty road. The hawkers, who had once laughed at her, stared at her now with a mixture of awe and disbelief. Her crate was full again, but this time it was different, organized, clean, and shining under the sunlight. She knelt slightly and began handing out bottles of water to each hawker, one by one, her hands steady and deliberate. "Here," she said gently to a young boy struggling with his own small crate. "Take this." She handed a bottle to a tired woman whose arms shook from carrying too much. "This is for you," she said, offering it with a warm smile. Some of the hawkers looked hesitant, unsure how to respond. Others whispered to one another, but Bella only smiled and continued, moving down the street. Her voice was calm but carried clearly over the murmurs. "Don't be afraid to be kind," she said, pausing to meet the eyes of those around her. "Even when it costs you." The words hung in the air, soft but powerful, like a lesson etched into the very dust of the street. Teehee hawkers looked at her differently now, understanding slowly that her courage and generosity had always been stronger than the fear of losing anything. And for the first time, Bella felt the quiet, satisfying weight of purpose settle fully on her shoulders.